Alexander Usyk will beat Tyson Fury, and I'd even go as far as to say he stands a very good chance at stopping him. Ooh, that's ruffled a few feathers, I can already tell. Let me explain. We'll start with Tyson Fury, and we'll go from the beginning of his career to present day. First and foremost, I think Tyson Fury, and I've said this from the beginning, this isn't a new development. This isn't just a since the Ngannou fight, let's jump on the hate train for Fury. Pretty much all of my videos where I've mentioned Fury, I've said I think he is perhaps the most overrated heavyweight of modern times. And certainly, probably up to Ngannou, was the most overrated heavyweight today in boxing. I think he has such a padded record, and he hasn't fought anybody of note, really, other than Klitschko and Wilder. And if you remove them, I will give him his credit. Just give me time. If you remove them, and even if you look at them in isolation, I don't think he's all that, right? Going from the beginning of his career, he hasn't and didn't fight anybody of note for the first up till Klitschko, really. He fought Derek Chisora, but anybody that's really up there, he hadn't really fought. And even so, I think he still shouldn't be undefeated. He fought somebody called John McDermott. If you haven't seen that fight, go and watch John McDermott versus Fury, the first fight. I think he was a builder by trade. He certainly wasn't a big name. And he, in my opinion, and it's not just me, in a lot of people's opinions who saw that fight and have seen that fight, think Fury lost that fight. I believe the commentators had it as a robbery. But even if you watch it with like no noise and just watch the fight, and I'm no judge, but it's really hard to score that fight to Fury. I would say it's a robbery because it wasn't that close. I'm not like the Ngannou fight. I don't think it was a robbery. I had Fury winning slightly. I initially had Ngannou winning, but I've seen it back. Fury winning slightly. Either way, split decision, majority decision, whatever you call it. I think it was fair. This one, I'd say I don't really see how you judge it by any metric and have Fury winning, right? I got to give him his plaudits. He went back and he rematched the man, which is rightly so. He went back, he gave him the rematch, and he TKO'd him about 9 months after the first fight. But in my opinion, he still lost that first fight against somebody he really should have beaten and was given the decision. Wrongly so, right? So that's first and foremost, right? Moving on from that, he fought somebody called Steve Cunningham. I don't know if you have heard of him or have heard about this. He fought somebody called Steve Cunningham. Steve Cunningham was a cruiserweight boxer coming up to heavyweight. He fought Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury won that fight. He stopped Steve Cunningham in the 7th round, right? However, Tyson Fury was dropped in the 2nd round by Steve Cunningham, and at the point of stoppage, the 3 judges had Fury behind on 2. 2 of the judges had Fury behind, and the 3rd judge had it as a draw. So 1 draw, 2 behind. No one had Fury winning. Fury was losing that fight against a cruiserweight coming up to heavyweight, and was dropped in the 2nd round by a cruiserweight coming up to heavyweight. He recovered, as we know Fury can do, and stopped him. But even to this day, Fury has always said his hardest fight he's ever had, amateur or pro, is Steve Cunningham. He was a slippery, slick boxer, and he was just so much smaller than him. And he said he's really struggled because Fury couldn't outbox him. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't outbox him. He was a slick, slippery cruiserweight. I'll come back to that. So he was losing that fight. This world-renowned boxer who can give Usyk a run for his money in my opinion, was outboxed by a builder. In my opinion, actually, in the judges' opinions, was losing to a cruiserweight who just come up. And then, going on from that, he had the Klitschko fight. Now let's have it right. He absolutely schooled Klitschko. No shadow of a doubt. He absolutely scored Klitschko. Won that fight comfortably. And I could sit here and tell you, which I believe is the case, he didn't fight ready Klitschko, a happy Klitschko, a motivated Klitschko. Almost how he came in, I'd imagine, to the Ngannou fight is how the Klitschko he fought, a scared one, which is why Klitschko really wanted that rematch. That's neither here nor there. Tyson Fury can't control that. He did what he did what he had to do, and he fought who was in front of him, and he won convincingly. But that win that everyone says is what makes him just so unbelievable. He wasn't really tested, and I don't think it was because you look at the AJ Otto Wallin fight, and AJ never really was tested. I think it's because AJ didn't let him be tested. I don't think that's the case for this one. I think Klitschko just didn't turn up. It's the same for Joseph Parker versus Wilder. Wilder didn't show up. But again, we'll move on from that because the Klitschko he fought, in my opinion, wasn't the best Klitschko. But that's neither here nor there. Fury couldn't control that. He put in a job. After the fight, lo and behold, he pops positive for a drug test. People like to forget that he's potentially one of the biggest drug cheats in the British sporting history. We just brush over that because he was eating wild boar. Just brush over the fact he was tested positive as a drug cheat, which I don't care who you are. It's not if AJ popped it now, I don't care. Not on. John Jones, drug cheat. He probably he is the GOAT of UFC, but he's a drug cheat. I just can't get over that. So, and then he disappears for 3 years. I'm absolutely not saying it wasn't mental health reasons, but it's funny that the 3 years he was gone, he was also tied up in legal battles for being a drug cheat. They then sort of come to an agreement that look, because they were tying up, you've served your 3 years anyway, you drop it, we'll drop it, done. And he comes back. Now I have no doubt he was depressed and battling mental health, and fantastic for coming back, but that's something, right? He comes back and he fights Deontay Wilder. Now, in that first fight, that fight probably should have been stopped. I get it because the ref said at the start of the fight, no matter what, I will give you the count. So Fury got the count and he stood up and beat it, right? But it was a long count and he was out, right? But fair enough to him, he gets up and he goes on, he wins us the fight and he draws. Now, whether you think he won that fight or not, he drew, right? And what that tells me is, again, the best boxer known to ever, right? 6'9", he boxes like he's 4'10", but he couldn't outbox. I think he won that first fight. But he couldn't outbox him convincingly enough to be given that fight. So it was a draw. So the best boxer we've ever seen couldn't outbox Deontay Wilder, who everybody agrees cannot box. He's just got a bomb of a right hand. Everybody says that. He can't box. He's just got a dynamite right hand. But Fury couldn't outbox him to the point where in the second and third one, he didn't try to outbox him. He just laid it on him. And the second and third one, knockdowns, did he beat the count, whatever. Wilder's got all these excuses. Fury won. He won all three, in my opinion. But similarly to how I'm saying, I think he lost to John McDermott, but the record book says he didn't. He drew. He may have won, but he drew. He didn't outbox him convincingly enough. Someone who can't box against somebody who is supposed to be the best didn't beat him convincingly enough to get given the decision. So he's lost to John McDermott, in my opinion, to the point we had to give him a rematch because no one thought he won. That's why they had the rematch, because nobody thought he won. So he lost to John McDermott. He then was losing to Steve Cunningham and was dropped by Steve Cunningham. He then couldn't outbox convincingly enough Deontay Wilder. I don't see how you look at this so far, other than the Klitschko performance, and go, yeah, he's such a slippery, slick boxer. I don't think he is. I think he's good, and he's great, and he's big, and he's fantastic for somebody of his stature. But he couldn't outbox Deontay Wilder, was losing to Steve Cunningham, who's a cruiserweight. Again, we'll come back to that. And he couldn't outbox John McDermott, in my opinion. He had to stop him in the second fight. I don't see how you can compare the boxing abilities of him versus the likes of Alexander Usyk, arguably the greatest of all time. Right? And then, after that first fight, he goes on to box Otto Wallin, the guy who's so slippy defensively and all this, 6'9", Tyson Fury, so slippy defensively. goes on to box Otto Wallin, gets a disgusting cut where it should have been stopped. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. That fight should have been stopped. I've seen fights stopped for way less. I've never seen a fight carried on with something worse than that. That should have been stopped. Anybody other than Tyson Fury, that fight gets stopped. And Otto Wallin should have won that fight. So he goes on to fight him, another southpaw, and that's what happens, right? Should have been stopped. So then he goes on, gets the win, he goes on and he fights Wilder again. Wins those fights. And I'll give him his plaudits, right? Then he fights Dillian White, who at the time, now whatever, and looking back, maybe at that time wasn't quite the contender we thought. But when they had the fight, we thought he was a worthy contender, and Fury just dealt with him. Again, plaudits, credit where credit's due. He did deal with Dillian White so easily, and I'm not here to make excuses for Dillian White. Fury just actually looked fantastic that time. Credit where credit's due, he looked fantastic, and dealt with him easily. Then he fights Chisora, and again, just makes it look easy. So I can't really dispute that. Then the Ngannou fight. Another person who should have walked through. And I don't think Fury looked his best. I think he had an off day. I think, I'm going to be honest with you, I think he did prepare properly. Maybe it wasn't his toughest or his hardest or his most thorough training camp. You can't really have one that close when you should be boxing December 23rd. So maybe it wasn't. But I think he still gave it a good go and took it seriously. I think he came into the ring not his best. I think the same with the Klitschko, right? I don't think Klitschko, but that's like with Klitschko. Fury did what he had to do. In this case, he didn't turn up as his best. Did what he had to do. Got out of there, right? Got the win. Arguably lost. I think he won, right? Was dropped, struggled. I don't care what you think of Ngannou. Fury should, this master boxer, even on one of his off days, should be really schooling him. And I'll make no excuses if it's close with AJ as well. AJ, even on one of his off days, should be absolutely schooling Ngannou. And here we are to present day, where he's got to fight Usyk, who I think has had some very close fights. I'll link back to Marius Briedis, a fight who he won, and I think he did win, but I think he was extremely close. It's been proven that he isn't out and out untouchable boxer, because he was losing. He did see some points of struggle against Marius Briedis. Really close fight that was. Go and watch it if you haven't. Fantastic fight, really close fight. He was losing and lost rounds to Tony Bellew. Granted, came back and won. He struggled at times against AJ with like body shots. He struggled against Eric Chisora. Obviously Dubois with the body shot. So he is also not impenetrable, but I think his record is fair, and he's also a phenomenal boxer. I look back at Fury, who I think is overrated. I don't think his boxing skills are all that. He's good, right? But he couldn't deal with Otto Wallin the way he should have. He's been dropped more times than I can. Everyone says he's got his chin. He hasn't got a chin. He gets dropped by everyone. He's just got an unmatched ability to recover, but he hasn't got a chin. I don't think you get dropped by Steve Cunningham, dropped by Ngannou, dropped countless times by Wilder. He's been dropped so many times. He hasn't got a chin. He's just got this ability to recover, where he gets hit, gets put down, and he's like, I'm fine. I don't understand how, but he's got that in spades. But I think he's the closest we've got to an Usyk is Otto Wallin or Steve Cunningham, right? 6'3". I think Otto Wallin's 6'4.5". Usyk's 6'3", both southpaw. Steve Cunningham's a cruiserweight coming up, slick boxer. And Usyk's better than both of them, both of which really troubled Usyk. Steve Cunningham dropped him, and he wasn't known as a puncher either. Steve Cunningham dropped him, right? And again, was ahead on the scorecards. Two judges had him winning, one had it as a draw. No one had Fury ahead. So Steve Cunningham, a cruiserweight coming up, was beating Fury, and Otto Wallin, although lost, and he did, let's allow it, he lost, gave him an awful night's work. The cut was bad. Fury was in trouble. And Usyk's a mix of them both, but 10 times better. He's way better a boxer than Steve Cunningham, and a way better boxer than Otto Wallin. He's a southpaw. He's actually a slippery, slick, agile, quick southpaw, unlike Otto Wallin. He's a cruiserweight who's smaller than Fury, like Steve Cunningham. I think that's why I don't think Fury wins. I think that's why Fury ducked him for so long. I think Fury did duck Usyk, and I think that's why. I think Fury thinks he wins. I think Fury thinks he can beat Usyk. I think he just knows it's an incredibly hard night's work. I think he knows it's an incredibly hard night's work, and he's going to have to be at his absolute best to beat him. I think he can beat him. So I think we've seen Usyk show some weakness, and I think we have seen a slip. But I still think it's enough to beat him. I still think it's enough for Usyk to win. And again, I don't think Fury's got that chin. I think he's got that ability to recover, but he hasn't got a chin. And Usyk's not known as a power puncher, but if Usyk can lay it on him, how Otto Wallin did, how Steve Cunningham did, and we've seen he's got the engine to go 12 rounds, get a second wind and really go for it. I just think it will be too much for Usyk, and he might not knock him out, but eventually the ref's going to step in. I think there'll come a time where Usyk's just laying it on him, and the ref's going to go, right, I've got to stop this now, because it's too much. And we've seen Fury get away with a lot against Wilder, against Otto Wallin. We've seen him get away with these things, but I think if Usyk's putting it on him and he's not showing any signs of stopping, and Fury just can't deal with it, maybe he's been dropped once or twice, because Usyk's, you've seen Steve Cunningham do it, and Usyk's a lot better than Steve Cunningham. I see a scenario in which Fury's against the ropes, thinking he's doing the Ali shuffle and the head movement and the bobs, and boxing like a dream, but Usyk's just laying it on him, and the ref steps in. I don't think that will happen, because I think Fury just gets away with everything. I think Fury gets the benefit of the doubt in every scenario, so I don't think the ref will stop it. I think he'll be too scared almost, unless he really has to. So I think Usyk will outbox him. I think it will be quite comfortable. I don't think Fury can outbox Usyk. I think if it goes 12 rounds, Usyk wins. I don't know if Fury can stop Usyk. I don't know if Fury's got that ability to stop Usyk. And I just see Usyk winning on points if it goes to points. So I think Usyk wins. And I think there is a scenario in which Usyk stops Tyson Fury. I think he's laying on him, bang, no, okay, seen enough. We'll get him in the rematch. That's what I see happening. You let me know your thoughts down below, people. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. We're absolutely loving this YouTube thing at the moment. Really enjoying it. Let me know what you think of the conversation going. Like, subscribe, comment, people. You know how YouTube works. Peace.